What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 92nd episode of the Boundless Business Podcast. It's the amazing Larissa, Justine, and Nico here. Team, how are we feeling today?
Feeling good. It's weird. We're filming on a Thursday, not a Friday. So now I kind of
No,
feel like it should be Friday.
that's all good.
I
That's
know
all
it's not a Starbucks Friday, it's a smoothie Thursday instead.
Yeah, exactly. So, Justine, what are we talking about on this Thursday that's not a Friday?
Today we're talking about how to retain employees during the winter months because a lot of times landscaping companies can lose employees during the winter and they kind of have to restart in the springtime. So we're going to give some tips and tricks on how to retain those employees in the winter. Let's start with explaining why this is so important and what kind of effect losing employees over the winter can have on landscaping businesses.
Yeah, of course. So landscapers experience really high turnover in the winter months. Most of that comes from just a lack of jobs. Depending where you're at in the country, some landscapers have a year-round season. Not everybody does. If you're up in the north, you're probably not going to be able to do a lot of work that might require anything that needs to dig into the ground. Once the ground is frozen, a lot of landscaping stops. So that's kind of the time frame you're looking at in terms of when the jobs are really going to stop is like how long will Mother Nature let you keep doing these jobs? So because of that, landscapers have a really big winter employee loss, and it's important to keep in mind like losing employees in the winter sucks. However, the cost and time associated with rehiring and retraining new staff in the spring is also a really big challenge. So a lot of landscapers lose all their staff in like October, and then in December they start hiring again for the spring. And that would be like December, January-ish. So that's kind of like roughly why this problem exists. I mean, obviously it's more nuanced and it depends on every business, but yeah.
And let's get into how landscapers can keep these high quality employees engaged throughout the winter so that they don't leave and that they stay on for spring and summer projects.
Yeah, it really just boils down to what are, because again, you don't want to hire someone just to keep them around, right? You want to make sure that you're focusing on jobs that they can still do in the wintertime and still serve clients, but might be in a different capacity. So, one of the big things that we recommend is start putting in either winter services or design consultations for the spring rush. So, for instance, let's say that you are a landscaper, maybe do artificial turf and like that, and that. Uh, in the winter, you probably can't install it if you're a northern client. Now, if you're in the south, you can do it year round. But let's say that you're in the north, you might not be able to do that. But that doesn't mean that you need these high quality crews to go to waste. So a couple of things that you can do is, for instance, winter cleanup, winter mulching. A lot of people take this time to clear out a lot of the dead trees because, again, if it's dead and it's not going to grow back, it might become like a fire hazard to have around the house, right? So you can put in winter-based services that these high quality individuals, these driven individuals can still perform, do it well, and serve the client. Now, let's say that it snows super hard this winter and you're unable to do the winter services. You might want to migrate people and start training them up into using softwares like CAD or other design based consultation software so that you can have conversations with homeowners, start getting paid to design their perfect dream backyard. But instead of going out and actually doing it is more of an office job for the couple of months that you might not be able to go out there and fully start the project. But you can start getting those designs ready, get deposits in, and start getting individuals scheduled in so that as soon as the ground thaws and you're ready to start planting trees and starting turf, whatever that is, you can start actually doing that. Now, a lot of people are now migrating and doing the first option, which is usually hanging Christmas lights, installing permanent lights, cutting trees. All of that is really a big focus where you see a lot of people just switching their workforces over to do that. But you don't want to not worry about the other one because if you can start designing these bigger projects, you're most likely going to be the one that actually gets to land it and start putting that in your pipeline for the next year.
Yeah, winter's a really good time to start just planning and whatnot as well. So don't be afraid to use your workforce for that too. just to really help with any of the operational tasks that maybe you need done. Or, I mean, and Nico touched on this, but I think it's really important to use that time for training and development. You can provide training sessions and workshops to help enhance particular skills and knowledge, whether that be skills they use out in the field, like maybe you do an irrigation workshop one day and make sure everybody really knows the ins and outs of irrigation and how to set up those systems. Maybe it's office work, like Nico was mentioning. Maybe it's teaching them how to use design software. Maybe it's teaching them how to properly photograph all of the jobs that you have going on. Or, I mean, there's a number of different skills that your team, I'm sure, is capable of doing. And then it definitely depends on your needs as well. If you need to focus more on the technical skills, that does make sense. And I mean, having those be really high quality services you can offer in the following year is great too. So you can use this time not just for training and development on things you already do, but maybe on services you don't offer yet, but that you know will be profitable and a really good avenue for you to pursue in the upcoming year.
And then inevitably people will leave and businesses will have to hire more people in the spring. So what are some of our tips for making the hiring process more cost effective and time effective? Because it can be very costly to hire so many new people. So what tips do we have there?
Yeah, it's a really good question. One of the best pieces of advice that I have is go to your current workforce and see if they would recommend anyone in their network. You'd be surprised like how few people actually talk to their, and we're actually perfect examples of this because that's one thing that we've recently done, which is ask our team members they recommend anyone, and you'd be surprised how many individuals are out there that are connected to your employees that might be a gold mine of great, hardworking individuals for your team. So my biggest advice is go to your internal network, go to your vendors, go to the people that surround the business that really know kind of what you do and the company culture that you have, and talk to them first because it's so much easier to go to warm partners and warm conversations than it is to go and post a job in Indeed and whatnot. Not saying that doesn't work. It's just you have these amazing conversations and connections. Why not lean into it a little bit more?
Yeah, and when you do eventually need to hire, and this will likely happen definitely before spring, most landscaping companies will do some level of hiring. Just keep in mind what all your actual need is and where your team members' current capacity is as well. So that's always my number one piece of advice is really look at like, do you actually need to hire or do you think you need to hire? And so if you actually need to hire, it's a matter of like, you don't have enough capacity to handle the projects you have. Sometimes it is just fully anticipation, and you do need to be ready for that. You do need to be able to know, like, oh, I have a massive job that's starting in 2 weeks. I got to get somebody hired today. Like, that's super important. And you need to also keep in mind, like, training time and whatnot. Make sure that you have a good training program built out, because that is something people care about and something that will really make a big difference in terms of retaining team members. Is if they're getting that continual education and training and you want to be pouring into them as much as they're pouring into your business. Like it definitely needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship and one where they are growing and learning and where your business obviously can help provide the structure for them to do that within. So make sure you keep all those things in mind in terms of like just general business jargon for like be good to your employees, understand what their goals are and help them get there.
Absolutely. And we have a whole podcast talking about that as well. So go listen to it.
Yeah, I can link that down below. Is there anything else that we wanted to talk about in terms of retaining employees or keeping employees motivated during the winter months?
The biggest thing is that there is going to be a slowdown. So start planning for it. It's middle of October. It's a little late to start planning, but it's not completely late. So start having those conversations now. Tell people that it does happen every year. It slows down a little bit, and that's just part of the game. So have those conversations. Be ready for difficult conversations if you have to have those, and just know that as long as you keep playing the game, you're going to be okay. But yeah, just know that you have to take action now.
Well, I think that covers everything then.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about this or how to actually fill up your pipeline for both the winter and spring, email me at nico@balancemedia.com. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a phenomenal rest of your day, and peace.